So before we get started making a body butter, I just wanted to explain that different people have different definitions of what a body butter is. This is an all oil based, it has shea butter, avocado oil, jojoba, and beeswax. So it's an all oil based product. So some people consider this a body butter. And I guess the pros of it are that it's deeply moisturizing. It doesn't require a preservative, but it's heat sensitive. So if you live in a warm environment, it can melt or tend to get soft. Sometimes people will make a base like this and whip it to create a really creamy, fluffy texture, and then kind of pipe that into a jar and consider that a body butter. Again, it's very susceptible to melting in warm environments. And a lot of cosmetic chemists and formulators consider this type of product a body butter. It's a thick oil and water emulsion, and that just means that it has butters and oils, and they're made into little droplets, and an emulsifier allows the oil and the butters to be incorporated in a water phase. So just like mayonnaise or salad dressing, if you shake it, you can create an emulsion, or if you have an emulsifier like egg yolk, you can mix together oil, vinegar, and make like a mayonnaise. So that's what this is. It's an oil and water body butter. It's a thick cream that has a water component and an oil and butter component and an emulsifier to bring the two layers together. So this is more what we're going to build today as our example of a body butter. So prior to formulating, we need to make sure that we use good manufacturing process, and that means that we need to clean our equipment, clean our environment. So I've cleaned the floor, mopped the floor down, wipe it down with a 10% bleach solution. And then for my benches, I've used just a all-purpose cleaner. So if you just have soap and water or a cleaner, you just want to clean off any dust or debris or things like that. And then to sanitize my countertops and equipment, I use isopropyl alcohol. So for the countertops, I can just mist a little bit of this on there. It kills any germs. And then for my equipment, I can mist the equipment and then wipe it off with a paper towel. But this helps to reduce us introducing any molds or bacterias or germs into our formulations, because when we make products with water, they're also good environments for undesirable microbes to grow, but having good manufacturing practices helps us to prevent that from happening. Other things I do is I wear gloves, and normally when I'm formulating, I wear a hair bonnet. So I usually have this over my hair, but since I'm just shooting this practice video to show people how to do this, I'm not wearing it today. But when I start formulating products for my clients, I will add the hair bonnet to avoid contaminating any of the products with hair. So we need to prepare our workspace with good manufacturing practice prior to beginning our formulation. And this is the recipe that we'll be making, and you'll notice that it's written in percentages. So if I know the percent of each ingredient that is in my formula, I can scale it up very easily, as opposed to having a formula that's just ounces or grams or something like that. So the water component of our formula will be distilled water, glycerin, and xanthan gum. And the glycerin acts as a humectant, which means it helps to draw water into the skin. It helps to moisturize the skin. The xanthan gum will help stabilize the formula, which is important, especially if you live in a warm climate. And the glycerin will also help us to incorporate the xanthan gum into the water component without it getting all gloppy and glunky. If you've ever used cornstarch or arrowroot, you have to incorporate it in a little bit of liquid first and then add it to your soup or your stew to thicken, because if you just put the thickener directly in, it just clumps up or makes a bunch of lumps. So we don't want that to happen. But our water component is distilled water, glycerin, and xanthan gum. And then for the oil component, the oils add emollients and moisturization to the skin. We'll use coconut oil, mango butter, avocado oil, and shea butter. And how we'll get the two phases to combine is that we'll use an emulsifier and then a co-emulsifier. So the emulsifier that I chose is called Lotion Pro 165, Glycerol Stearate, and PEG 100 Stearate. You might use emulsifying wax, or there's a lot of different emulsifiers out there, but you can't necessarily just substitute one for the other. You need to learn about the particular emulsifier. So this one is easy to work with. It doesn't thicken very well, but the other emulsifier that we'll be using will help to thicken. And that second emulsifier is cetyl alcohol. It's very inexpensive. It's an EcoCert ingredient, which means it's approved for organic products, and it works really well, and it feels really nice on the skin. And it helps to thicken our products and give them a good skin feel. So that will be the oil portion. And then, since it's a water-containing formula, we need to preserve it. So the preservative I've chosen is Optifen Plus. It's a paraben-free and formaldehyde-free preservative that's well accepted by many people. And you can use, there's a lot of different preservatives out there. So this one is easy to get, and it's, like I said, it's paraben-free and formaldehyde-free, so that's nice. Then we'll add vitamin E. And vitamin E is known as an antioxidant, and antioxidants help to protect our oils and butters from going rancid. So it helps to protect our product. It's also good for the skin. And then if you like, you can add a fragrance or essential oils, but you don't need to. You can leave the product unscented, but if you want to give it a nice scent, there's synthetic fragrances that you can choose from. And then essential oils are natural and also can smell beautiful. So that, we can talk about that another time. And then the last thing is that we'll need to check the pH, and we may need some pH adjuster, and we'll talk about that when we get to that point. But this is the formula that we're going to follow. So this is the water bath setup. So I've just put it on a heating element. I have an induction burner. You can use an electric burner or whatever you like. And this is just filled with tap water. And then you can see I just put my beakers in here. And I will let these heat until they reach about 75 degrees. So as you can see, the butters and the emulsifying waxes are melting. And what I've done here as well is I've placed a small towel in the water bath to keep the beakers from bumping around. So you can do that if you wish. So I use a thermometer to check the temperature of my phases, and they're ready to combine. And you can see the lipid phase, the oil phase is completely melted. So now the next step is to drizzle the oil phase into the water phase. So I'm taking my oil phase and drizzling it into the water phase. And this is my pre-homogeneous solution, or pre-emulsion. Got most of that in there. And now I'm going to use my stick blender So this is my emulsion, and since it's warm, it's still quite thin, and it will thicken as it cools. And once it gets to 40 degrees Celsius, we can add the preservatives and any heat sensitive ingredients, and it will fully thicken by tomorrow, and we can put it into jars and pack it. To speed up the cooling, I put this beaker into an ice bath or with cold water and ice cubes. And ideally you want to keep stirring it so that it doesn't separate as it cools. And if you have an overhead mixer or a stir mixer, that would be useful. But if you don't, you can just come in and whisk it every once in a while as it cools. And as the temperature goes down, it will continue to thicken. So right now it's at 54 degrees. And once it reaches 40 degrees, I can add my heat sensitive ingredients. So now the body butter is at 38 degrees Celsius. I can add my cool down ingredients. You can see it's thickened up quite a lot, and as it cools it will continue to thicken. So I will add the preservative. So this is my preservative and would include vitamin E and any essential oils I want to add in my cool down phase. And the preservative helps keep the product safe and free from bacterial or mold contamination. And if you have a product that's made with water, it's a must to keep it safe. So I just will add that in and stir it to make sure it's completely incorporated into the cream. So that may take a minute, but I want to make sure that it's completely mixed in here. So let's take a look at what we've made. Now, it's not completely cooled, but you can just take a look. So it's got a nice, quite a thick consistency, and a nice look. It feels heavy. I mean, it feels like very moisturizing. So, yeah. So there's our body butter. Yeah, definitely I can feel all this lovely shea and the mango. It feels deeply moisturizing, deeply moisturizing. It is a little greasy on the hands, but for the body it feels really nice. So it will continue to set up overnight, and we can pack it in jars tomorrow. Well, thanks for making the body butter with me. Bye for now.